The ship floated in silence, drifting near a dying star. Its black surface reflected no light, as if it swallowed the very glow of the heavens. For centuries, it had been seen by many, studied by thousands, and feared by all. No one knew where it came from. Some called it a weapon, others a tomb, and some believed it was alive, waiting for someone to wake it. Aliens from across the galaxy had tried to enter the vessel. The strongest warriors, the most brilliant scientists, and even the most powerful empires had sent their best. They used machines, energy beams, psychic powers, and codes. Yet, the ship remained locked, its surface cold and unyielding. It gave no sound, no sign, no answer. The legends of the ship grew like fire. Entire races worshipped it as a god. Others warned their children to never go near it, for every attempt ended in failure. Many who touched its surface never returned, their bodies found lifeless, as if the ship had stolen their souls. Still, the mystery pulled explorers again and again. Then came the humans. They were not the strongest race, nor the oldest, nor the wisest. Yet, they were curious, bold, and reckless. They wanted to see what others had feared. Among them was a lone pilot named Daniel. He had heard the stories since childhood, tales of a ship that rejected all he wanted to see with his own eyes. Daniel stood at the edge of the alien platform, staring at the silent UFO around him. Alien leaders gathered. Some looked at him with pity, others with laughter. A human. One alien hissed, "The ship will burn him alive like the rest." Another laughed, "Let him try, at least we will be entertained." But Daniel's eyes did not move. He was calm, focused, and strangely unafraid. The ship was massive, taller than any building he had seen. Its surface was smooth like glass, but dark as night. Strange symbols shimmered faintly, glowing and fading as if they were breathing. The closer he walked, the colder the air felt. His breath turned to mist, and a heavy silence pressed against his chest. He lifted his hand. His fingers trembled for a moment, not from fear, but from the weight of history. Generations had tried and failed, and now it was his turn. The aliens behind him held their breath, some eager to watch him fail, some waiting to collect his body. His hand touched the surface for a heartbeat. Nothing happened. It was cold, lifeless, empty, just as the stories had said. Daniel felt the stares behind him. He knew they were ready to laugh, ready to call him another fool. But then, the surface moved. A faint hum echoed in the air, so soft it was almost a whisper. The dark, glass-like surface rippled like water under his palm. Symbols lit up across the hall, brighter and brighter, spreading outward in every direction. The ground shook, and a deep sound filled the air. A heartbeat. Slow and powerful, the ship was alive. The aliens gasped. Some stepped back in fear. Others shouted in disbelief. Impossible. One roared, "No one has awakened it in thousands of years." Another cried. Their voices trembled, but Daniel heard none of it. The ship's hum grew louder, like a song only he could understand. The symbols on the hull swirled, shifting into shapes that seemed to speak directly to him. He could not read them, yet he felt their meaning inside his mind. A voice whispered faintly, not in words, but in thoughts. It called to him. It welcomed him. Daniel's body shook as energy surged through him. His heartbeat matched the rhythm of the ship. He felt a bond forming, a connection deeper than anything he had known. He stumbled back for a second, but the ship pulled him forward. A hidden door slid open, light spilling out into the darkness. Gasps filled the air. Aliens screamed in shock. Some fell to their knees, unable to believe what they saw. The ship had rejected emperors, warlords, and entire armies. Yet it had opened for a human. Daniel stood before the glowing doorway, his breath heavy, his mind racing. He looked back once at the crowd. Their eyes were filled with fear, anger, and awe. Then he stepped inside. The light swallowed him whole. And the doors closed silently behind him. Outside, chaos erupted. Alien leaders shouted, some demanding he be pulled out, others fearing what the ship might do now that it had chosen. But deep inside the vessel, Daniel walked alone. The halls lit up with each step, guiding him forward. The ship had been silent for centuries, rejecting all who dared approach, but now it had awakened. And it had chosen a human inside the ship. Daniel felt as if he had stepped into another world. The air was heavy, yet alive. Glowing lines ran across the walls. Shifting like rivers of light, the floor beneath his boots hummed, responding to every step he took. It was not metal, not stone, not anything he had ever known. It felt like the ship was breathing with him. He placed his hand on the nearest wall. The surface warmed under his touch. Symbols rose like ripples in water, swirling into shapes he could not read. Yet his mind filled with strange emotions: sadness, loneliness, waiting, as if the ship itself had been longing for him. Outside, the aliens roared in disbelief. Their voices echoed through the coms. Some screamed to break the door. Some begged their leaders to stop. Others simply fell into silence. Unable to accept what their eyes had seen, the ancient UFO, silent for ages, had responded to a human. Daniel moved forward. His footsteps echoed softly through the long corridor. Each time he touched the walls, new lights came alive, guiding him deeper. The path seemed endless, yet the ship shaped itself around him. Doors opened without force. Bridges extended before his feet. It was as though the vessel already knew him. He stopped when he reached a vast chamber. In the center stood a chair unlike any design in the galaxy, a throne of light and crystal, surrounded by rings of moving symbols. The hum grew stronger here, steady and powerful. Daniel's chest tightened as he felt the pull. He slowly approached. His hands trembled not from fear, but from the weight of the moment. He looked at the chair and felt a strange thought enter his mind. Sit. It was not a command. It was an invitation. He hesitated, thinking of the thousands who had failed before. What if this was a trap? What if the ship only wanted to consume him? Outside, alien leaders barked orders. Armies surrounded the ship. Weapons were raised. Heavy cannons charged. Fear spread among the factions. Some wanted the human destroyed before he claimed control. Others argued that killing him might anger the ship further. Daniel lowered himself onto the glowing chair. The moment his body touched it, a surge of energy spread through his veins. His vision blurred. The world spun. Lights flared across the chamber. The rings around him moved faster. Spinning like galaxies in motion, he gasped, clutching the sides of the chair. His eyes burned with light. His heartbeat matched the deep pulse of the ship. For the first time, he did not feel alone. He felt chosen. A voice entered his mind, soft yet vast. It was not alien, not mechanical. It was something beyond words. You are the one who listens, it whispered. Others sought power. Others sought conquest. But you seek to understand, Daniel's breath caught. He wanted to speak, but his mouth made no sound. The ship was not only alive, was intelligent. It had been waiting, searching, testing. Images flooded his thoughts. He saw alien armies trying to break inside. He saw empires collapsing when they failed. He saw the ship drifting alone, watching civilizations rise and fall, waiting endlessly. His heart pounded as he realized the truth. The ship had not rejected Demet, had been waiting for him. Outside, chaos reached its peak. Alien generals shouted, "Destroy him before he takes control." But others trembled. No, if he is the chosen one, killing him may awaken its wrath. Their armies stood divided, fear spreading like fire inside. Daniel felt the ship's energy weaving into his body. His thoughts became commands. His breath became fuel. The walls shifted, panels moved. The entire vessel began to respond. The floor vibrated, engines stirred far below. The sound grew louder, shaking the ground outside. Aliens stumbled back. Eyes wide, it's moving. One shouted, "The ship is waking." Daniel's grip tightened on the chair. He could feel its strength, its age, its purpose. It was older than empires, older than stars. Yet, it was alive, bound to him, he whispered. Almost without knowing, "Why me?" The voice inside him answered, "Because you are human." The words echoed in his mind, powerful and clear. It was not logic, not science, but something deeper. Humanity was not the strongest, not the oldest, not the most advanced, but they carried something no one else had, a spark, a will, a fire that refused to die. Daniel's eyes shone as the chamber lit brighter. The ship no longer felt like a prison or a weapon. It felt like an ally, a partner, a guardian, and it had chosen him outside. Silence fell across the armies. The ship lifted from the platform, rising slowly into the air. Dust and light swirled. Around it, the hum turned into a roar. Ancient engines, silent for centuries, all thundered to life. The aliens stared in awe. Some dropped their weapons, some fled, and some knelt. The impossible had happened. The UFO had awakened for a human. Daniel sat in the pilot's chair, his hands glowing against the controls. The ship's voice whispered again, "Together, we will decide the future." The moment Daniel settled deeper into the glowing chair, the ship reacted as if it had been asleep for 1,000 years and now was finally breathing again. The walls around him pulsed with streams of light, colors shifting from deep blue to gold and white. Strange patterns danced in the air like living constellations. The sound of the hum grew louder, spreading not only through the chamber, but into his very bones. His heart raced, yet he did not feel fear. Instead, there was a strange sense of belonging, as if he had been here before. He gripped the edges of the chair, his knuckles white, his mind swirled with questions, but before he could even form them, the ship answered. A wave of images struck him like a storm. He saw stars collapsing, planets burning, and great wars raging across galaxies. He saw ancient beings, tall and radiant, guiding this very ship through battlefields of space. Their voices rang like thunder, commanding armies and shaping the fates of countless worlds. The ship was not simply a vessel, it was a witness to ages long forgotten. Daniel gasped, his breath sharp. The visions moved faster. He saw alien empires rising in pride and falling in dust. He saw the ship drifting silently through time, never landing, never stopping, waiting as stars were born and died. And then the visions slowed, showing him a reflection not of an alien, but of himself. The voice returned, stronger now. "You are not the first to sit here," it said, "but you are the first to be heard." Daniel's chest tightened. The words shook him more than the visions. He remembered the stories told outside, of warriors and rulers who had tried. All had failed. The ship had remained cold. But now it was alive, breathing and speaking to him, outside the UFO. The world was chaos. Alien soldiers shouted in panic. Leaders barked conflicting orders. Some screamed to fire their weapons, while others feared such an act would bring destruction upon them all. The ground trembled as the engines deep inside. The vessel began to stir. Daniel pressed his hand against the chair's armrest. A Tisa surface melted into his skin. Symbols flowed from the seat into his palm. He cried out, but the pain was brief. Replaced by warmth, his heartbeat matched the sleek. A T matched the rhythm of the ship. One steady thrum after another, the walls of the chamber shifted, opening windows of light. Through them, he saw the alien armies outside, their faces pale with fear. Their war machines looked like toys before the massive frame of the awakened. UFO, he felt their fear pressing into him, but he also felt the ship's will pushing back. "Why me?" Daniel whispered, his voice shaking. "Because you are human." The voice echoed again. Louder, like a bell in his mind. "Others sought only control. But you seek meaning. Others demanded power. But you reached with open hands. That is why we awaken for you." Tears stung Daniel's eyes, though he could not explain why. The ship's words carried not only power, but emotion. He felt its loneliness, its endless waiting, its desire to finally move again. In that moment, he no longer felt like a pilot. Stepping into a mystery, he felt like a partner to something eternal. The engines deep below roared fully awake. The ground outside cracked, dust rising into the air. Soldiers stumbled and scrambled back. Alien ships above readied their weapons, but none dared to fire. The sight before them was too overwhelming. Inside, Daniel felt energy flooding his body. His thoughts grew sharper, his senses expanded. He could hear the heartbeat of the ship. He could even sense the flow of power through its veins. He raised his hand slightly. And the ship responded. Lights shifted, controls bent to his will. He realized with shock the ship was not obeying him like a machine. It was listening to him like a friend. Every movement was a choice shared between them. Every command was a question answered in unity. "Will you lead?" The voice asked, calm and patient. Daniel did not answer. Not yet. He felt the weight of the question pressing down beyond the walls. Entire civilizations watched, waiting for his choice. For centuries, the UFO had rejected all, and now it had chosen him. But leadership meant more than survival, meant responsibility. The chamber around him flared with light. The walls unfolded, revealing more pathways. The ship was opening itself to him, offering secrets that no empire had ever seen. He felt himself drawn deeper, pulled toward a core of endless power outside. Silence spread across the armies. Thousands of alien eyes lifted to the glowing vessel. Their fear turned to awe. They whispered among themselves, "The ship has awakened. The human controls it." The air shook as the UFO lifted higher into the sky. Its engines thundered like a storm breaking through eternity. The dying star above cast its fading glow, but the ship shone brighter. Alive, powerful, and unstoppable inside. Daniel tightened his grip on the chair. His fear was gone, replaced by a fire he had never known. He did not fully understand what had happened. But he knew one thing. The galaxy would never be the same again. The ship had awakened. And it had chosen a human. Outside the awakened ship, the alien armies gathered in fear and anger. The platform shook as the massive UFO hovered above it. Glowing brighter than any star in the system, dust rose in clouds, engines rumbled like thunder. And every being who watched knew that history was being rewritten before their eyes. The alien leaders, dressed in armor of gold and steel, shouted. To their soldiers, some screamed for retreat, others demanded attack. Confusion spread quickly, and the air filled with the sound of panic. One commander raised his weapon high, his voice shaking. "This cannot be allowed. No human should control the ship." Their fury was not only fear of the human, it was jealousy. For centuries, they had sacrificed countless warriors, brilliant minds, and endless resources to unlock the UFO. And yet, none of them had been chosen. Now a single human, small, fragile, and young, sat inside and commanded it as if it were his birthright. The ground forces raised their cannons. Alien ships in the sky circled. Weapons glowing, they prepared to fire. The human inside might have awakened the ship. But perhaps if they destroyed him quickly, they could take control before it was too late. Inside the glowing chamber, Daniel felt the rage outside pressing against him like a storm. Through the ship's strange connection, he sensed their anger, their envy, their fear. The ship whispered in his mind, "They do not understand. They will fight you. Will you fight back?" Daniel's heart pounded. He had never commanded such power, never been in the center of such danger. He had only been a pilot, not a leader of civilizations. His hands trembled as he felt the ship's power waiting at his command. He did not want war, but the aliens were already preparing to strike. The first shot came from the ground. A cannon fired a beam of blue light that struck the UFO's hull. The crowd gasped as the beam vanished on contact, absorbed into the dark surface, as if swallowed whole. The ship did not even tremble. Instead, its lights flared brighter. Responding with a low growl of energy, alien voices rose in terror. Some dropped their weapons and fled. Others screamed louder. Firing volley after volley, explosions lit the sky, but none touched Daniel. The ship's shields shimmered like water. Deflecting every attack, Daniel gripped the chair. "Stop!" he shouted, though none outside could hear him. The ship answered instead. Energy pulsed outward in a wave, knocking soldiers and war machines back. Not a single life was taken, but the message was clear. The ship would not allow harm to its chosen pilot. The alien leaders grew more furious. "He mocks us." One cried, "He dares to resist our power." Another snarled, "The ship must belong to the strongest, and we will tear it from him." Armies regrouped, ships in orbit aligned for a full strike. The fury of empires gathered like a storm. Inside, Daniel struggled with fear. He did not want to be their enemy, but every move he made was seen as defiance. He whispered to the ship, "I don't want to kill them." The voice answered calmly, "Then you will not. But you must show them who commands." The ship glowed brighter, rising higher into the air. Its engines roared with ancient power. The sky darkened as clouds formed around it, lightning crackling. Through the storm, aliens stared upward, their anger fading into awe. They realized what they faced was not a weapon to be seized, but a force beyond their reach. Yet still, some refused to bow. Warships opened fire from orbit. Beams of plasma and fire rained down. Daniel closed his eyes, bracing for impact. But the UFO stretched its shields wide, creating a dome of light that covered not only itself, but even the platform below. The attacks dissolved like sparks in the wind. The aliens gasped. For the human was not only protecting himself, but protecting even them from destruction. Confusion spread among the armies. Some looked at their leaders in doubt. Some whispered, "Perhaps the ship has chosen rightly." Daniel sat tall in the glowing chair. The fear in his chest had not left, but now there was something stronger resolve. He realized he could not run. He could not surrender. The ship had awakened for him, and now the galaxy was watching. Outside, the fury of the alien leaders grew weaker. Their voices cracked with desperation. They had always believed themselves chosen, always believed the ship would bow to their strength, but strength had failed them. Now, before their eyes, it had risen for a human. The storm above thundered as if the heavens themselves declared the truth. The ancient UFO had returned to life, and no amount of fury could change the fact that it had chosen its master. Daniel took a deep breath. His voice shook, but carried strength. "I don't want your war," he whispered to the stars. "But if you force me, I will fight." The ship answered with a roar of engines, a sound that shook every soldier's heart. The fury of the aliens burned, but deep inside, a new feeling began to grow among them: fear and respect. The age of silence was over. The ship was awake, and a human now held its destiny. The ship trembled, as if it had been waiting for this moment. Engines deep within its core thundered with a sound older than empires. The ground cracked beneath the platform. Light poured from the seams of the hull. The entire structure seemed to awaken with power that no weapon could match. Daniel gripped the glowing chair tightly. His heart raced, but his mind felt strangely clear. He was not simply inside a machine. He was inside a living giant. Every breath he took was echoed by the ship. Every thought he formed was answered with motion. He whispered softly, "We fly," and the ship responded. The UFO rose higher into the sky. Leaving behind the broken platform, the alien armies stared upward, their weapons lowering. Fear and awe spread through their ranks. Some fled in terror. Others fell to their knees. No one had ever seen the ship move before. Not in living memory. The engines flared, sending waves of energy across the ground. Trees bent under the force. Dust rose in giant clouds. Warships in orbit scrambled to adjust. Aliens watching from their cities saw a star ignite in the sky. They realized the legends were truth. An ancient ship lived again. Inside, Daniel felt the vibration through his bones. The chair connected to his heartbeat, guiding him. He thought of rising higher. And the ship soared. He thought of slowing, and the ship drifted smoothly. It was not like flying a fighter jet. It was like dancing with something vast and powerful. He leaned back, his eyes wide with wonder. "You're alive," he whispered. The ship answered with a low hum. Warm and steady, and now, so are you. But the alien leaders were not ready to surrender. In orbit, fleets of warships aimed their cannons. Determined voices echoed across the comms. The human must be stopped. One commander growled. "If he leaves this system with the ship, no empire will be safe." Beams of plasma and fire shot across the sky. Daniel gasped, the streaks of light coming fast. His instinct screamed to evade before he could even move. The ship tilted, shields flaring like a dome of fire. The attack scattered into sparks. Leaving him unharmed, the ship whispered, "Do not fear, I will protect you." Daniel nodded, breathless. "Then let's show them we can fly." He thought of speed, and the ship leaped forward. A blur of light shot across the sky. Breaking the sound of silence that had hung for centuries, aliens gasped as the UFO vanished and reappeared miles away in a blink. It moved like lightning, faster than their eyes could follow. Daniel laughed for the first time. It's a sound wild and free. "So this is flight," he said. His body pressed against the seat as the ship climbed higher. Breaking through clouds, the stars opened before him, endless and shining. But the alien fleets gave chase. Warships surged behind him, missiles launched. Daniel's hands gripped the glowing arms of the chair. He did not know how to fire weapons. He did not even know if the ship had them. But as he thought of defense, the vessel answered. Energy burst from the ship in wide arcs of light. The missiles dissolved before touching him. The alien warships shook under the force. Some losing control, others spinning helplessly, yet none were destroyed. The ship had answered his wish. It fought, but without killing. Inside, Daniel realized something important. The ship was not built only for war. It was built for choice. It did not simply act, it listened. His heart guided its power, and it obeyed. The aliens chasing him grew desperate. Their fury turned to fear. He cannot be allowed to escape. One shouted, but even they knew they were too slow. The ship danced around them like a predator among insects, untouchable and free. Daniel flew past them, the stars widening before him. His heart calmed as he gazed into the vast galaxy. For the first time he understood, this was not just a flight, it was a beginning. A new age was opening, one where humanity would no longer be ignored. He closed his eyes for a moment. Feeling the bond between himself and the ship, he felt its loneliness, its endless waiting, and its joy at being free once more. It was not only his ship now, which his companion, his ally, his destiny. The voice inside whispered again, "Together we will show them. Together we will rise." Daniel opened his eyes, his gaze firm. He tightened his grip on the chair and whispered back, "Then let's begin." The ship roared, its engines brighter than suns. It streaked through the darkness like a comet, leaving the armies and their fury far behind. The galaxy had witnessed the impossible, and none would forget. The first flight of the ancient UFO had begun, and it was led by a human. The stars stretched endlessly before Daniel as the ship carried him higher, past the fleets, past the burning atmosphere, into the silent black of space. He sat in awe, the glowing chair holding him steady as if he were part of the vessel itself. The hum of the ship was no longer strange. It was steady, like a heartbeat joined with his own. For a moment, there was peace. The alien fleets had fallen behind. The storm of weapons had ended. Only the vast emptiness of space surrounded him. Yet he felt something deeper stirring within the ship. Something waiting to be revealed. The voice came again, softer than before. "Do you wish to see why we exist?" Daniel swallowed hard, his hands gripping the glowing arms of the chair. "Yes," he whispered. The ship answered, "Then look." Light burst before his eyes, not outside, but inside his mind. Visions returned, stronger than ever. He saw galaxies spinning, stars forming and dying. He saw civilizations rising with pride, building towers that touched the skies, only to crumble into dust. He saw endless wars, fire and blood across worlds. Among these images, he saw the ship itself, drifting through ages, not as a conqueror, but as a watcher. It had traveled through the ruins of fallen empires, across graveyards of dead worlds, searching, always searching. "We were not made to fight alone," the voice said. "We were made to choose." Daniel felt the weight of the words. His chest tightened. "Choose what?" He whispered. "To protect or to destroy," the voice answered. "To guide or to conquer." Each who sat here wished only for power. They sought to rule, and so they were denied. But you. The voice grew warm. You did not seek to own. You came with wonder. You came with heart. Daniel's eyes burned. His throat tightened. He remembered his first touch on the hull. He had not wanted to rule. He had only wanted to understand. And that was why the ship had opened for him. The vision shifted again. He saw the ship as it had been long ago, flying alongside others. There had been a fleet once, countless vessels like this one. They had been guardians, protectors of fragile worlds. But war had consumed the galaxy. The fleet had been lost, destroyed, leaving only this ship. Alone and silent, Daniel's hand trembled as he touched the armrest. "You've been alone all this time," he whispered. The ship answered with a hum, soft and sorrowful. "Yes, until now, outside, the stars glittered." But Daniel's mind was heavy with the weight of truth. The UFO was not just a weapon, it was a guardian left behind, waiting for someone it could trust, waiting for someone who would choose not with greed, but with courage. The silence broke when alarms lit across his vision. Alien fleets were forming again. Massive warships gathered at the edge of the system. Thousands of them, united by fear and fury. Daniel felt their intent. They would not let him go freely. They would rather destroy themselves than allow a human to control the ancient vessel. The ship spoke again. "They will come. They will test you. What you choose now will shape the future." Daniel's heart pounded. He was just one man, one pilot. Yet here he sat in the seat of destiny. The entire galaxy looked at him as if he held its fate. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply. He thought of Earth, of humanity, small and fragile among the stars. He thought of the countless races outside, burning with envy, fear, and desperation. He opened his eyes and whispered, "Then I choose to protect." The ship answered with a burst of light. Its hull glowed brighter than suns. Shields expanded in waves, surrounding not just itself, but the very space around it. The fleets advancing suddenly found themselves halted. Their weapons fizzled. Their engines froze, as if the universe itself commanded them to stop. Gasps echoed through the alien ships. Commanders shouted in confusion, "Our systems are frozen. We cannot fire." Panic spread. They had expected a weapon of destruction, but instead, they faced something greater. Inside, Daniel felt calm. His choice had shaped the response. The ship would not kill, but it would not allow harm, he whispered. "This is your true purpose," the voice replied. "No, Daniel, this is our purpose." For the first time, Daniel felt no fear. He felt strength, not from power, but from trust. The ship trusted him. And he trusted the ship. Together, they would face the galaxy. Not as conquerors, but as guardians. The fleets outside pulled back, commanders trembling. They realized the truth. This was no longer the ancient relic they had mocked and feared. This was something alive, something awake, and it had chosen. Daniel leaned back in the chair, his eyes fixed on the stars ahead, his voice calm but firm. "Then let them come. We will show them what it means to be human." The ship's hum deepened, steady and strong. The galaxy had hunted the UFO for power. Empires had killed for it, armies had died for it, but its true purpose was never conquest. It was to awaken in the hands of one who would protect. And now, that purpose was alive again in a human. The galaxy held its breath as the awakened ship floated above the burning sky. Alien fleets surrounded it in silence, weapons still raised but hearts filled with doubt. They had seen its shields spread like wings of light. They had felt their weapons turned useless, and they had witnessed the human, fragile, yet unbroken, command the ship with nothing but his will. Inside, Daniel sat in the glowing chair. His body was weary, his mind overwhelmed, but the fire inside him had not faded. The ship's hum flowed through him, steady and calm. It spoke softly in his mind. "They wait for your choice. Daniel, will you lead them with fear or with hope?" Daniel looked out through the walls of light. He saw the fleets trembling, thousands of soldiers staring. Some were filled with rage, others with awe, and many with confusion. They were ready to kill him, but also ready to follow him. The galaxy had been waiting for a master of the ship, but they never imagined it would be human. His hands pressed against the chair's glowing arms. His voice came out low, almost a whisper. "I don't want to rule them. I don't want to be a tyrant." The ship answered, "Then you must show them. Not with power, but with choice." The alien leaders gathered in their command vessels. Their voices shouted across the channels. "Human, surrender the ship. It belongs to the strongest. It belongs to us." Others cried, "Prove yourself. Show us its power." Their words mixed with fear and anger, echoing across the stars. Daniel's chest tightened. He knew that if he unleashed the ship's full strength, the fleets would be destroyed. Entire civilizations might fall. Fear would rule the galaxy. But if he showed mercy, they might return to attack again. Was there a middle path? Was there a way to show strength without becoming a monster? The ship waited silently, giving him the freedom to decide. For the first time, Daniel realized the truth. The ship was not his servant, it was his partner. It would not force his will. It would honor his choice. He closed his eyes, breathing deeply. Memories of Earth filled his mind, the blue oceans, the green forests, the laughter of people, fragile yet strong. Humanity was not perfect, but it had one gift. No empire could match the ability to choose compassion in the face of fear. Daniel opened his eyes, his voice steady. He spoke to the fleets, "I will not destroy you." His words echoed across the comms, translated into every alien tongue. "I will not become the tyrant you fear, but I will not surrender either. This ship has chosen, and it has chosen humanity." Gasps spread across the alien fleets. Some commanders lowered their weapons, stunned by his mercy. Others trembled with anger, demanding he be crushed. The tension hung like a blade in the air. Then, the ship moved, not with violence, but with grace. It spread its shields wide, covering not only itself, but even the alien fleets. Their ships, their soldiers, all were wrapped in a dome of protective light. Missiles fired by mistake vanished harmlessly. Engines that had failed reignited. The ship gave them life instead of death. Silence fell. Leaders stared in disbelief. Soldiers dropped to their knees. For the first time, they understood. This was no conqueror's weapon. This was a guardian, and it had chosen a human who had chosen mercy. Daniel's voice rang again, stronger now. You can fight me. But the ship will not allow you to win. You can destroy yourselves in anger. Or you can stand with me. I will not command you as a ruler, but I will protect those who cannot protect themselves. That is my choice. The fleets wavered, some ships turned away, retreating quietly. Others bowed their lights in respect. The anger that had burned moments before began to fade into something else, acceptance. And a spark of hope. Inside, the ship's voice whispered. Warm and proud, you have chosen well. Daniel, not with fear, not with power, but with heart. The galaxy will remember this day. Daniel leaned back in the chair, his body finally relaxing. He stared into the endless stars, a faint smile touching his lips. He had not asked for this. He had not wanted to be chosen, yet now he understood. The true power of the ship was not destruction, but the strength to choose a different path. The ancient UFO glowed brighter, its engines humming like a song across the stars. The fleet scattered, carrying with them the tale of what they had seen. Whole worlds would soon know. The ship that had rejected all had awakened, and it had chosen a human who offered hope instead of fear. Daniel whispered to the ship, his voice soft but certain. Then let's protect them. All of them. The ship answered with a steady hum. Together, the galaxy had changed. A new age had begun. And its first step was a human's choice.